A lot of people are skeptical of studying the liberal arts. They think it's not practical, that it won't get them a job. This is not a new idea. I remember when I and Aristotle was growing up 2,400 years ago in ancient Greece, and I saw a keychain in a store that said, I majored in liberal arts. Do you want fries with that? Now, aside from being obnoxious to fast food workers, of course, the joke is that a liberal arts degree is useless because it won't get you any job that you couldn't have gotten anyway. So today's philosophical question, is the keychain right? What's the point of the liberal arts? Why study them? Well, I'll tell you. But first, I need to ask you a serious question. Why was it illegal to teach slaves to read? Frederick Douglass, the great 19th century American orator, grew up enslaved, so he had to learn to read in secret. Why was this? Douglass answered in his autobiography, quote, "To make a contented slave, it is necessary to make a thoughtless one." The rationale is clear. If you can't develop or expand your mind can be controlled and manipulated. You may have read the novel 1984 by George Orwell. Do you remember what the totalitarian government in 1984 does to language? They eliminate words. They create a new language that they call newspeak, with the explicit aim of restricting thought. They intentionally get rid of words for concepts they don't want you to have. How can you dream of freedom or fight for justice if you don't even have words for them? Try to think without language. Try to learn without ever reading. You'll never be free if you can't understand the prison that you're in, or if you don't understand you're in a prison at all. So let's get back to our keychain. Do you know why liberal arts are called liberal arts? The Latin word liber, spelled L-I-B-E-R, means free. Libertas is the Latin word from which we get the English word liberty. The word liberty is a noun, liberate is the verb, and liberal is the adjective. Liberal is simply an adjective meaning related to liberty. So the liberal arts are literally the liberty arts, the freedom arts, the knowledge and skills and way of being free. Now, the phrase did originally mean the arts worthy of a free person, but they're also the arts necessary for being a free person. My buddy Epictetus, the great ancient Roman Stoic philosopher, was also born a slave. He said, quote, "We must not believe those that say only free persons ought to be educated, but we should rather believe the philosophers who say that only the educated are free." The rationale here is clear too. Someone who is widely educated has a shield against propaganda, manipulation, and mind control. If you study history or philosophy or science and all the rest of it, then you're not going to fall for BS and biased half-truths or lies about history, philosophy, science, and the rest of it. A liberal arts education is an education in intellectual self-defense, in intellectual self-determination. Frederick Douglass's owner knew that. The totalitarian party in 1984 knew that. They didn't want you to defend yourself, so they didn't let you think for yourself. Liberal arts don't just broaden the mind, though they do. They let you control your mind, free your mind. A lot of people focus on free speech these days, and that makes sense. But what is freedom of speech if you don't have free thoughts to speak? The second chapter of John Stuart Mill's book on liberty from 1859 contains his famous defense of free speech, probably the greatest defense of free speech you'll find. Do you know what that chapter is called? Of the liberty of thought and discussion. Thought. Free thought comes before free discussion. And there is no free discussion without free thought. Here's a fun word, parochial. In its neutral sense, it means your parish church district. Hence, Catholic schools are often called parochial schools. But the word also has a pejorative or negative sense, meaning small-minded, because the metaphor is of someone who's never left their local church district and who thinks that their small way, their local way, is the only or best way to live. Such a person, the parochial person in the negative sense, is trapped by custom, blinded by their own narrow perspective. Liberal arts break free of that. You learn how to think for yourself by taking a broader view, an expanded view, a deeper view of humanity's history and great achievements, whether intellectual or artistic or political. Because then, after you've learned about the great wide world and the great thinkers that have come before you, then and only then can you choose for yourself whether to keep what you learned when you were too young to think about it for yourself. That's how you become free. Have I mentioned democracy? I haven't even mentioned democracy yet. You know, throughout history, not everyone has loved democracy. And the oldest criticism of democracy Even my buddy Plato thought this, bless his heart, is that the people aren't fit to rule. The hoi polloi, which means the many or the masses in Greek, are too irrational, too short-sighted, too prejudicial, too crude to run a country and serve in matters of state. Plus, according to this old criticism, they're too easily manipulated. You want some fun with etymology? Sure you do. Etymologically, the word demagogue means leader of the people, and it's the same demo as in democracy, which literally means the power of the people, by the way, demos kratos. But in the pejorative sense, demagogue means manipulator of the people, like leading a bull by the nose. And the traditional fear was that in a democracy, the people would be too gullible and manipulated by a demagogue who's skilled in getting the masses to do what's best for the demagogue rather than what's best for the people or for society as a whole. So what's the best response to that criticism? That the people wouldn't be fit to rule, or that the people wouldn't know enough to run the country? Educate the people. Teach them how to be fit to rule. Democracy is supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people, right? So then the people are going to have to know a little something about history, about economics, about law, about science, about sociology, about art, about philosophy, if they want to run an effective state, wisely, efficiently, ethically, and heck, beautifully. A democracy, an education in a democracy is supposed to be citizen training, not just vocational or job training. And that's what the liberal arts do. I mean, the freedom arts. They teach you how to be a free member of a free society. And you know what that implies? When someone attacks the liberal arts and says we don't need them, that what they're really doing is attacking freedom and saying we don't need to be free. You don't hate freedom, do you? Support the liberal arts. Of course, the liberal arts also means learning about yourself. There's a lot of pressure out there to follow a preset path. But when you study broadly and widely, you learn about options that you might never have dreamed of. That gives you choices and lets you choose your own path. Instead of letting external expectations choose for you, when you choose your own path in life, that is self-rule. Now answer Aristotle, I can hear you saying. People have to get jobs. They have to pay the bills. They have to be practical. And that's true. But let's not forget that freedom is foundational. Let's go back to 1776. Imagine the founding fathers debating whether to declare independence and gain their freedom from England. What if they said, freedom sounds great, but will it get us a job? I don't recall Patrick Henry saying, give me liberty or give me death, as long as liberty commands a high starting salary and 2 weeks paid vacation. But luckily, we don't have to choose here. The liberal arts teach knowledge and skills. You learn to think critically, carefully, analytically, ethically. You learn to communicate and break down complex ideas. You learn to spot opportunities for new ideas. And you learn how to learn, so you can quickly adapt when technologies and jobs markets change. And they will. You seen the original Karate Kid movie? Daniel wants to learn karate, so his mentor, Mr. Miyagi, has him wash and wax his car. He does this for a few hours. All right, wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. Daniel gets impatient, right? Because he wants to learn karate, not wash cars. But you know what? He was learning karate. The waxing motion he was practicing was the same motion he would later use to block kicks and punches. Right? He thought he was washing a car, but he was really learning self-defense and discipline. The liberal arts are the same. Reading complex books and writing and rewriting essays aren't just there to teach you what Socrates said or what Julius Caesar did. They are instilling skills, self-defense skills. Remember, by studying liberal arts, you're learning to protect yourself, right? Because the person subject to propaganda and indoctrination has their mind controlled by others, not themselves. Remember Frederick. Remember 1984. Remember Plato's warnings about demagogues. The critical thinking skills embedded in the liberal arts are about knowing how to know when you're being played and when you're someone else's puppet. Thomas Jefferson once said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. A nation of free people is a nation of free thinkers, and you can't be a free thinker without the freedom arts, the liberty arts, the liberal arts. So go forth, friends, go forth and be free. Study the freedom arts. But let me give you one last answer, which may at first sound like a joke. If fish swim and birds fly and cows graze, what do people do? Think. People think. We have minds, we have consciousness, we can discover truth, we can understand morality, and we can create breathtaking beauty. A bird that never learns to fly fails to flourish. A person that never learns to think fails to flourish. Keeping a bird in a cage deprives it of its natural ability. Depriving someone of an education deprives them of their natural ability. Learning is what lets you maximize your human potential and live your best life. Lets you flourish. Now, to be clear, you don't have to go to a fancy college to do this. You don't even need a liberal arts degree or even to go to college at all to be educated. But you do need to read for yourself and from a wide range of sources. And you need to think for yourself carefully. That goes especially for those of you who think you think for yourselves because someone you follow on social media tells you what a free thinker you are for believing whatever they tell you. So let's sum up. Why study the liberal arts? To free your mind, to free your country, to live your best life. Any questions? Any comments, concerns, or angry fists? Anything I missed? Let me know in the comments. And remember, folks, freedom may not be free, but liking this video and subscribing to my channel is. So like and subscribe for more answers to all your philosophical questions. Thanks, friends.